Partnered by Times Influence.
Hello and welcome to Autocar Dialogues presented by Reliance General Insurance. Well, it's been a tough year for the auto industry, and that's because times are changing. More and more we see online portals not only disseminating information to consumers, but now they're also selling cars. So is the digital medium a threat to the traditional retail dealership, or is it just a way for the traditional dealership to access more consumers? Well, this is what we're going to find out. We're in discussion with dealers from across the country today. And we have with us Mr. Sanjay Mahajan, who's the Managing Director of AM Group. We have Mr. Ramchandani, who's the Managing Director of B. Mangatram. We have Mr. Pavan, who is the Managing Director of Kamal Group with us. And we have Mr. Varun Dev, who is the Managing Director of Varun Group. Now, you are from all across the country, so we have, a large sort of geography over here amongst you. But it's been a slow year. Do you think the consumer has changed, the Indian consumer in his pattern? Shared mobility is now so much more accessible to the Indian consumer. So is he really looking at buying cars, or is this digitally savvy consumer using different methods of transportation?
Yeah, I mean, if you notice, it's actually been in the last 2 years that shared mobility, whether it's an Uber or an Ola, has taken off just for the sake of convenience. And they are digitally enabled. So yes, they're coming less to the showrooms and going in for an Ola. During the day, I just want to go to work and I know where I'm going, it's point to point. So it's become convenient in that sense. So they have evolved, the customers have evolved in that sense. But if you see the country as such, it's varied. So like the southern part of the country where we come from, it's actually growing at 18 to 20% year on year as far as the car industry goes. So I think these are movements that are happening naturally, following certain trends, but the car industry and the story is here to stay.
Yeah. Do you think, but other, like northern parts of the country or major, cities like Mumbai or Delhi are seeing shared mobility more than maybe, different parts of the country?
When we speak about Mumbai, yeah, we have definitely unfortunately seen a degrowth, about 30%. And aggregators like Ola, Uber, like Mr. Varun rightly said, are playing a vital role in degrowing this thing. Moreover, especially in Mumbai, the metro work has gone up on a large scale. The whole city is dug up with the metro thing. People are finding more inconvenient to drive it personally. Earlier, people used to keep 2 or 3 cars, but right now, if you have 1 car, it's sufficient. The rest we will take Ola, Uber, which is more convenient. One more thing, like Zoom car and all have also come up with one concept: you pay and you can change your cars. You don't need to take the ownership of the car, but some kind of policy. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but you can keep on changing. So you don't need to own a car. So right now, Bombay being a metro city, it is getting saturated with terms of owning a private cars. They would rather use metro, trains, buses, and all sort of public transport.
So has that changed the consumer for you? Is your consumer now becoming an Ola or an Uber or a Zoom? Do you now have to sell to a different kind of consumer, not just the single retail person who walked into the showroom?
Yeah, definitely we have to. We have to look at other avenues, like we have to go and sell to Ola and Uber. The main thing is the infrastructure here. I mean, the roads are narrow, the parking space and everything. So the customer feels it convenient to do a Ola or a Uber. So that's why, I mean, they're shifting to that and they save a lot of money on that. I heard from somebody they don't need to keep some drivers and everything. So they save a lot of money on that. I think
so. Has your consumer changed in that sense?
I think so.
Yeah, consumer has changed obviously, but I would like to point out, like a lot of tier 2, tier 3 cities still don't have Ola, Uber. So mass of the market is still out of Ola and Uber.
Yeah.
So there I don't think these kind of impacts are there on the selling pattern, and we're still selling to individuals.
But in Bombay, it has changed a lot. In Bombay, if you speak, a parking cost maybe 3 or 4 times the cost of the car.
Correct.
So it becomes
infrastructure is playing
a very important role in metro cities, especially. Still in the northern parts, people still have that कि नहीं मेरे घर के आगे 2 गाड़ी होनी चाहिए, 3 गाड़ी, then only especially Delhi and all. But in Bombay, people, educated people, they don't believe in that philosophy.
Yeah, since I guess time is money, and that's why they don't want to spend for their driver or drive on their own. They can get work done while in the car, which is why they go for an Ola or an Uber. So the consumer mix has changed. It's not that the customer has changed. Yes, the mix has changed to a split between hiring and private consumption.
So has that made you change the way you sell? Because obviously selling to an individual is hugely different from selling to a large fleet. Not only at the sales point, but even service and attention to the customer after the sale. Has that made you change the way your dealership is structured?
Obviously, I mean, the manufacturers are directly involved in these sales, So whether it's the pricing or the terms and conditions, naturally they're involved. And I mean, it's a regular buy, So naturally it has to be different than what you were doing earlier. And even in terms of service, you have to offer them even the late night services so that they can be back, on the roads. So that's obvious.
A 24/7 is a big change from normally just having a...
For service also, you have to keep separate bays for them. You have to have that time commitment. This will be the TAT of each car, all in detail.
But with digitization sort of, being stronger and stronger and the new age millennial consumer, things like this have become easier to connect. Like, you can have a pre-booked, so you know when the car is coming in, you know when it's going out. So has that helped in sort of the efficiency and changing?
See, when this started, the conversion ratio was not that great.
But now
We started from 2 to 3% of the leads which we used to get, but now it has matured up to 15%.
So digitization, so online connection is changing to a larger percentage. And is that all across the country?
It's more in our state. It's around, probably my dealership is having around 40%.
Wow.
Yeah, inquiries and on booking and everything has gone up. I mean, obviously. Yeah.
For the service, I'm talking about the service.
Okay. Now, in terms of sales also.
Service.
Do you have individual targets then in terms of sales for walk-ins and for online?
Yes,
now in
definitely.
Your showroom. So you have different teams running.
There are different verticals, and head of that vertical also different. Then only you'll be able to focus the upcoming trend of digitalization.
And do you see it equalizing, walk-ins versus digital?
Not really equalizing, but it is, yes, it is growing day by day, because now also family people do like to come with their children and feel the car, see the car, drive the car, take their kids' opinion and then decide.
This has been across all the panels I've been discussing that no, the dealership is here to stay because touch feel is very important. But do you think our new millennial consumer, the younger consumer who's completely digitally savvy, he's got all his information from across the net, do you think that he will still remain and this will remain that in US you now have car dispensers? So basically you booked a car, you go to the dispenser, you got your car, you've driven out with it. So do you think that this change is, gentler maybe in India, but we're going to see a bigger change?
Well, places like, I know you're right, like Carvana in the US is like an auto mall which dispenses cars, but we just have a large chunk of population, let's say in the rural and the semi-urban, which still has the time and the time to actually go and physically go to a dealership with the family, as the panelists were saying, choose the colors. So it's actually a very emotional thing for them. It's the car buying process. So it won't go anywhere. Even the US is about 5 to 7 years ahead. But they're not getting rid of showrooms as such. So I think the car showrooms are here to stay. It's just that the rate of growth of addition of new showrooms may not be like it happened in the last 5 years.
So,
the growth.
So basically you're saying showroom in one place can now connect with a larger base of consumers.
Exactly, yeah.
Does it also help, because I know many years ago Maruti Suzuki ran a program online which they was very successful at, where people abroad could buy their people in India a car simply by giving their papers online, which is a huge part of the process. I'm a son, I'm working abroad, I want to buy my mother a car, but who's going to go to the headache of everything of going to the showroom, doing the paperwork? So has that part also changed, and can you connect, like I'm saying, with now a global base of consumers that may be accessible to you and you can do everything online with them? Has that changed?
Definitely it has changed. I mean, so much, like platforms are available on the net, so it has definitely changed. And it's more easy for the consumer.
So it was a pilot project by Maruti to gift their loved ones back home. And it was a success, but in the sense that there's certain regulatory or procedural issues as far as payments are concerned and the back end is concerned which weren't addressed. So for example, if you need a refund, if there's an amount lying in your bank account, you would still actually need to contact the dealership and get it done either through a demand draft, more than an online transfer. So procedures like refunds still happen at the showroom and not online yet. So
But do you think this is going forward a model that could help you reach not just the Indian consumer, but the Indian consumer abroad who may want to buy a car for family back home? You know, that digitization is going to help you access a larger base.
oh, definitely, it will. So currently we're just serving a large portion of India that's not served yet for cars. There's still a lot of first-time buyers that need to buy. So so it's a gradual process. You know, we believe that yes, a lot of people outside India can access the internet and do their buying process for their ones back home. So it's going to happen. It is happening, but it's all about the focus that an OEM has. Do they want to sell more cars in the rural areas? Do they want to sell it to the fleet operators? It's then we'll have an answer. We'll have a response mechanism. The OEMs and the dealers will have a response mechanism to the trends in the industry that are happening.
Well, it's time to take a short break on that note, and an interesting conversation here. Is the Indian consumer ready to buy online? What direction are the OEMs taking? Well, that's what we'll come back and find out right after this break. Welcome back to Autocar Dialogues presented by Reliance General Insurance. We're in conversation with dealers from across the country, and very interesting subject. Where is the focus of manufacturers? Do they have to give their dealers more clarity, is what we were discussing just earlier. So do you think that more clarity is needed from manufacturers on the way forward to sort of give impetus to digitization and to help dealers become better?
No, manufacturers are already focused on this because they know that this is the way forward, you know. And in fact, they share with us almost on a daily basis, you know, the data of kind of inquiries we get and kind of the hit ratio we have in terms of test drives and the sale conversion. And they're very much focused on that the sale conversion should go up, you know.
Okay.
And though sometimes digital inquiries don't lead to entirely to the test drives, but like we are focused on that. That every digital inquiry is after all inquiry, and it should get converted into a test drive and possibly a sale.
So where do you think the barriers are? Why is this number not increasing? What is stopping that? Because the inquiries seem to be there, but the conversions are not happening. So where is the barrier?
Well, yes, if you actually analyze closely, it's about 8% of the total sale as far as metros are concerned that are buying online. So suppose a dealership is selling about 1,000 cars, like a large Maruti dealer would be selling 1,000 per month. About 100 cars are being sold online directly. That's the entire buying process actually. 90% of the buying process. He still walks into a showroom to get the delivery or to once have a look. He has time and he still walks into the showroom. The barriers are that there's a lot of window shopping, there's a lot of cold surfing. You have time in the office, you can just browse through. That still is considered a hit or a hit ratio by the aggregators. So there's a lot of these cold and warm kind of experiences or touch buying. I'm just window surfing.
So when people are making comparisons, that's still considered an interest in product.
Correct.
And in Indian market, still there is a large chunk of crowd who, for them, buying car is a sentimental thing. So yes, they do go digitalize to cut down the time at showroom. You can come pre-decided what variant, what color, what features do you require and what do they have, so that time is cut short and you can directly come and say, okay, this is the requirement, this is the variant I am looking at, I would like to go with the test drive and further booking and all.
Do you think that when you said sentimental, that's a huge part of our tradition, festivals, things like that, but this festive season has been a bit cold, and you think it's a shift to this millennial buyer, this new age buyer, consumer who's not so sentimental anymore. It doesn't attach that much value to a car. Car is not complete necessity. Okay, I have other options, you know. Yeah. So do you think that's changing this? Your consumer is changing, and that is why we are seeing, you know, a slowdown. Not just, there are economic factors to play, yes, for sure. But do you also think that the consumer is a factor to play in this?
I think it's the other way actually. See, car has become a necessity, and Ola, Uber is not going to take over the personal, you know, kind of the feel you have in your car, you know. So I don't think that's going to happen. And in fact, still we are at about, I think, 23 cars per 1,000. So still we are a long way to go, you know. So I don't think that's the real concern. It's something to do with your economy and your personal necessity.
So what he's saying is, in a sense, there's a lot of first-time buyers who would still attach the sentiment value to it. For an Indian, after a house, a car is the closest purchase for a family. That still holds, and they would rather do it at an auspicious time, given the choice. Given the choice and time. So that wouldn't go anywhere. We still believe that seasons and seasonal buying is here to stay.
It's just the extra car, you know, if somebody has 2 cars, he wanted to go for the third one. So they'll go back.
They're holding back,
they're holding
But the
back,
first-time buyer is
The
still
first-time
coming
buyers,
into the
yes,
showroom, buying his car. And do you feel it's easier now to reach this first-time buyer? Because with digitization, the access to such a larger base of people, you know, initially your guy had to make cold calls from the showroom and that was the only way, or, you know, walk-ins. But now with social media and platforms and access, is it easier to reach a larger base of consumers?
It's been easier naturally, and but this is like one more medium, you know. Our cold calling and, you know, the visits, the roadshow, that's not gone down.
Yeah.
In fact, this is one more medium.
But is this on the increase? Do you see the digital medium actually bringing in more sales or more first-time consumers to you?
Well, if you look at the data closely, I think it's in the, again, the semi-urban and the rural areas that it is bringing, even they are very digitally enabled, people in the tier 3 cities of India. So they,
Everybody has a phone these days. Everybody's data is like
exactly. It's just free. It's
flying,
the new oil. It's flying all over, and which is why they're on that bus, on that boat of, you know, just going online. And so we are reaching out to a wider audience, that's true. But the cold calling or doing events, as we say, like weekends, you go to a bank, you go to a supermarket where there's a lot of people that are floating with families. So we are still continuing to do those as well, because that needs to be there. A customer wants that option there, but he'll still do what he wants to do. He can go online and buy it, but you still need to have your showroom and you need to keep doing your activities.
So we focused on selling so far, where online can have its bit of threat and takeover, and online portals may be able to sell, but they can't service your car without a physical dealership. So is that where the strength is, and is that where dealers are now focusing so that customers retain, come back and stay? Because it's a big, I mean, you know, in other discussions it's come up, the digital medium is dangerous too, because one small thing and it goes viral. So has that, you know, made you change your focus to after sales more than the sale in this new world?
Absolutely. So dealers, for example, we have these Facebook pages now, just because customers post online or blog once they bought their car, and yes, that will go viral. There have been incidents too. So we are also mandated by the OEMs to have a Facebook page or a social media account to reach out and to answer customers their concerns. So it has been a little bit of a headache, but yes, that's the way the world is moving.
CSI has, the importance value of CSI has gone up very largely, and even the OEMs are very strictly monitoring that you have to achieve, a dealer has to achieve the CSI target. So there are no two ways about it, you have to.
After sales was always an important activity with the dealerships. I mean, without doubt, it's going up. In fact, like we are more focusing on the, you know, renewals of insurance to get more vehicles into the body shop and stuff like that. And you're right that customers also don't have a choice. You know, they have to fall back to the dealerships for after sales. I mean, with more and more new models and, you know, the upgraded versions, so they have to fall back on the dealerships, which are more automated and able to handle, you know.
So you're saying that that physical connect for the consumer is still very important. His trust, his reliance on, you know, connecting with the dealership is still very important.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, he would like to see that signage of a Maruti or a Bajaj, whatever, and he would like to see the dealer name, and he would want the relationship manager, whoever he was talking to be seen as a physical entity rather than just buy a 6 lakh or a 10 lakh worth of an item without a face to it. So that's why they still
Till today, the customer is depends largely on the service advisor, which he has got a good experience previously. So if you have a good connect with that service advisor, he won't even think of going to another dealer.
Correct.
That I have this rapport with him, I fully trust on him, then I can leave my vehicle.
But that's also a double-edged sword, because when there is attrition and that service advisor goes, then your customer goes.
You cannot help it. It is definitely.
And you know, connectivity has increased so much. So the digital medium allows them to be connected far more than it did before, you know. So that is a double-edged sword. But this is another area where, you know, dealerships always faced a problem, attrition between each other. And do you think digitization has increased this or decreased this or helped you stabilize? Where has that gone?
I don't think digitalization has anything to do with the attrition part. I don't think so. Because ultimately it's sales.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't think.
it's only probably in the back end where it could be
Yeah.
more efficient, where instead of having your 3 or 4 telecallers, you could have a one response voice mechanism which would have a voice recorder that would reach out more people. So that process of semi-automation could actually happen at the back end.
And do you think that in future then this would allow you to have probably your one big dealership where you do your service and you know, everything from sales to service, but then you could also have, as a dealer, this is my showroom, this is where you come to see the car, but I've got, say, you know, just service points further out, because that whole process of sale can now become online.
Exactly.
So do you think that is changing, and will it change, and is the Indian consumer ready for it?
No, but see, basically a test drive and a visit to the showroom is a must. It's a huge investment. No? The customer is making a huge investment, so he doesn't want to, you know, make it his decision only on the online or digital platform. You know, he wants to come to the showroom, so that's not going to change. And again, the, you know, personal relationship maybe with the sales consultants and the managers does, you know, give him some confidence, you know, when he comes to the showroom. So that's not going to change.
Thank you so much for being in conversation with us. The dealership is definitely here to stay. You have to go to the dealership to buy a car for the future. Thank you for watching.
Partnered by Times Influence.